Hello everyone. Since I put that last video up of shooting long range and showing my G7 BR2 rangefinder, I've had some personal emails sent and then some people posting asking a little bit of questions, where did I get it, you know. And what I thought I'd do here is just go through a small video, do a short video here on my progression in rangefinders from my very first one up to my newest one, which is the G7. So we'll get started here with my very first rangefinder and we'll move up from there. So here's my very first rangefinder that I ever purchased. It's the Bushnell 500, or Yardage Pro 500 they called it. It's pretty old now. It's every bit of 10 or 11 years old. Maximum effective range was about 400 yards, unless it was a really highly reflective target, like maybe a side of a building or a big flat face rock. You know, it was okay for a little while when I got into this long range, but I outgrew it very quickly when I decided to reach out beyond 500. You know, and also, even before I was shooting 500 yards, you know, you'd be out deer hunting and you'd see some deer or animals across the canyon, and you want to range them just out of curiosity, just trying to, you know, learn to guess the range. So this wouldn't do it. You know, if it's beyond about 400, it was useless. So I grew out of this very quickly. You know, like I said, I used this for a couple of years and decided it was time for something a little more. So we'll move here on to my second rangefinder that I ever got, which I really did like. This was a Bushnell Elite 1500. The second year I owned it, I was out hunting and the battery cover just snaps on and off. Well, the battery cover popped off, and of course I never found it. So I ended up just shoving some cardboard down in there. It's a 9-volt battery, and then just taped the heck out of it. I've only had to replace the battery once in it after about, I've used this camera now for, 10 years I'd say. And as of last spring of 2013, it got to where it wouldn't range beyond 500 yards, so something in the electronics finally gave up the ghost. But I tell you what, for just a basic rangefinder, it really did perform for many years. I really enjoyed it. It worked really well, and it was accurate. You could repeat the distance. Very good. Anyway, so that was my second rangefinder. My third and most newly purchased rangefinder is my G7 BR2. If you see my last video, this is the rangefinder that I had the camera mounted behind to get the shots of the rangefinder in action. I'll kind of do a little bit of a backstory here. When my Bushnell Elite was going out, I started looking online for rangefinders, and I knew I wanted something with at least a 1500 yard ranging capability, but I wanted, you know, I just wanted to see what else was out there. And I was looking at the Vectronics, which have, you know, their lower end one starts at about $2,000, but they can go, you know, 2,000 yards beyond. But they're strictly a rangefinder, a very accurate rangefinder, but strictly a rangefinder. And in my searches on the internet, I came across this G7, and it just really had everything I wanted. If you do any long range shooting, you know that several factors come into long range shooting, such as, well, let's see here, wind, temperature, humidity, barometric pressure, just so many different factors. Just the temperature alone can really mess with you, you know. And the wind is, I would say, the hardest factor to adjust for, but the temperature, I would say, is, if you're going to be shooting at, you know, all different elevations from 2,000 yards up to 7,000 or 8,000 yards, or 1,000 feet, if you don't have a rangefinder that is programmable, you have to make up several different charts for your weapon. This rangefinder will do it all. It has a barometric pressure sensor in it. It's I'm not even sure where it's at, but it's in here somewhere. It's built in. And then I think it's underneath one of these little covers there. It let's see, what else does this rangefinder do? It tells you the altitude. It tells you the barometric pressure, temperature, and of course the range of the target. Those are 3 factors, and then it gives wind correction. It doesn't have a wind gauge built into it, but it gives you wind corrections. So you'll either need to be really good at guessing the wind, or get you a little wind meter. But even those aren't real great, because that only tells you what the wind's doing right where you're standing, not 1,200 yards away across the canyon. You got to get good at guessing the wind and what directions and all that. Now that's the hardest thing, getting to factor in. But the gist of this rangefinder, you can go to gunworks.com and watch their videos. I'm not going to go into it too much. He explains it really good there, but basically you program your specific weapon into this once you've gotten your gun on paper at all these different yardages, and you know the bullet drop and all that. You program your weapon into this thing. It sets a chart up so you can shoot all these different ranges at different elevations. How that works, if you're using the bullet drop compensator, the BDC, in this thing, in this rangefinder, if you're at 2,000 yards, when you sight it in, it's going to calculate that. Now if you move up to 6,000 yards, or 6,000 feet, excuse me, that barometric sensor in there is going to, and the temperature sensor is going to recalculate that chart as you push this fire button to get your range, and then it's going to compensate and tell you the correction you need to make that shot. So this tool alone is worth its weight in gold. It just takes all of the guesswork out of doing it, and really it takes out you don't have to carry a whole bunch of charts with you. Before, when I was using my Bushnell Elite 500, I would carry a chart from 2,500 feet in 500 feet increments all the way up to about 5,000 feet. That's about the maximum I'll shoot at for elevation. In 500 foot, increments. And then temperatures, and that's another thing. You shoot during the summertime, 75, 80 degrees out, and then you get into wintertime during hunting season when it's 25, 30 degrees out. Everything's going to change. So you either carry a book of charts with you, which I still keep charts, don't get me wrong, but this rangefinder will do it all for you. Another thing, if you go to g7.com, they have a ballistic calculator on their site. You have to log in, you have to create a username and password, which is no big deal. And they have a really accurate ballistic calculator on their site that you may want to check out. And let's see here, this G7 also came with a really nice semi-hard case. You can either mount it on your belt, or it has a neck strap. Really nice little case. I put one of these chest straps, I don't know quite what you call them, but just goes over back and across your chest. It holds it tight to your chest. So there you go, guys. This is just a real basic review of the rangefinders that I've had over the years, and why I've gone with, how I've learned. I've progressed from where I started to where I ended. And if I was going to give you, any of you, one piece of advice, was if you're going to do long range shooting, you're going to need a good rangefinder. You're going to need an accurate rangefinder. You can start out with something like this Elite 1500. Again, they've upgraded. They have like a Fusion out now, which I was looking at. But spend the money. Get yourself a good rangefinder. If you can't afford a $1,600 rangefinder like this one, get yourself something like this. I think they're around $400 or $500. But it really makes a world of difference in your shooting ability. So anyway, thanks guys for watching. Please give a thumbs up.